Good evening. Welcome to Focus on Liberia. I am your West African correspondent, Edward Amara. Welcome to regular update on the African continent, where we discuss about development, political, both economic, political, and social development on the continent. This platform gives you the opportunity to learn much about the continent, especially for folks who are not definitely living on the continent, but they are Africans by descent, but they want to get information that are pertaining in Africa. So such news are so important. That is why I focus on Liberia. Do endeavor to come with latest information or development on the continent on everyday basis. So Focus on Liberia give you update, information that are needed, pertinent, information that we should share and discuss. You're welcome. You can drop your comment below the comment box, and you can make your meaningful contribution towards the program. And we appreciate our wider audience that normally listen to our program. So today we are discussing important topics on the continent, topics that affect our continent as a whole. We all know how important Africa is, and we all know how the continent is actually living in a dire need, thinking about the 21st century and thinking about what type of development that the continent needs that are lacking. And most of those, sorry for the breaking transmission, it was due to a poor network. As I was saying, most of those issues can be associated with both man-made problems, and some are actually very natural. Although those natural problems, if we have strong leadership on the continent, we may have the ability to tackle them. Because for far too long, Africa has been a continent full of complaints. Africa has been a continent where we have seen a lot of antisocial development taking place. And because of the failure in leadership, lack of human development, we have noticed that people by far consider Africa in very different perspective. So today, we are going to discuss 5 main headlines, and one of the headlines is green energy profiting on back of the back of Congo miners. So the green energy producers actually are profiting on the back of the Congolese miners. They were also going to see how Ghana discriminates attempted suicide. Before this time, any attempt to commit suicide into Ghana was known as a criminal act, so that particular law had been decriminalized. Then Zimbabwe won against anti-gay protest. Zambia won against anti-gay protests on the pending visit of Kamala Harris, that is the Vice President of the Great United States of America. Then grave robbers dig up concrete to find out albinos. We all know, maybe in East Africa, in places like Sierra Leone and Liberia, albinos are actually known as brothers, as friends. Unlike in East Africa, especially in Burundi, Tanzania, and some part of Rwanda, they use albinos. We all know albinos just like a genetic disorder where people, their green pigment change. Sometimes you can discover albinism through the eye, but many times their colors are not as typical Africans, corrupt colors. So we also see Lukashenko. Lukashenko is the president of Belarus. He actually hosted the foreign minister of Zimbabwe, and they discussed a lot of things. All those things have been seen as an attack movement against the West. Then finally, Botswana denies to kill ex-president. That the Icahn has actually alleged that the people of Botswana, especially the government of Botswana, intends to kill him. That is what he's alleging. So let's start with the story of Ghana. Ghana decriminalizes attempted suicide. In Africa, it sounds funny and sometimes interesting that people don't consider mental health to be a problem. And normally, people normally stress, maybe out of trauma, disappointment, could be like taking of drugs, like especially people who are addicted. They have sometimes, even some people, because of trauma, maybe because of disappointment, the lose of loved one, lose of job, and whatsoever. But we all understand our society, how it is today situated. And most people have made a series of attempts to take their life because when situations are not moving the right way. And sometimes we count maturity like when you are faced with a real life situation. But not everybody will have that opportunity to take judicious decision under such circumstances. And certainly, it is only in Africa here or in West Africa where normally we are seeing even counseling institutions are so weak. Normally, what happens into the Americas, we have seen on numerous occasions how people have killed others in the name of mental health issue. And in Ghana, an attempt to take one life is deemed as a criminal and is a law against the state, and you are liable for prosecution and a lengthy jail sentence if you are found guilty. But they never realized, they should have first realized that people who make a solid attempt to take their life have a reason to do such thing. I think those reasons should have been investigated. So before this time, any attempt for somebody to take his or her own life, even when they have a justification, you are liable to imprisonment. So the Ghanaian Parliament have deemed it necessary to ensure that if anybody who makes an attempt to take his or her life, that particular person will no longer be termed as a criminal. He will not be prosecuted on any criminal agenda. Rather, it will be associated with mental health problem, and that person need to be cancelled. That person need to be brought on the drawing board like people with sound mind to see how they can cancel him. That is why we have seen most youths in Africa today, our lives are being turned down aside. Sometimes when you are faced with real life situation, there is nobody to counsel you. Everybody need a counselor. Everybody need living in institutions. We need strong pillars who will counsel people. So when somebody faces the real life society problem, maybe that person could be suffering from unemployment, from poverty, devastation like the loss of loved one. It could be like loss of job. Maybe it could be like relationship problem, whatsoever. We have seen it on the continent. Most people have taken their lives because of certain reasons. So people should actually investigate the reasons behind such claim. Forever, they should make solid attempt to say, okay, Mr. A and B has attempted to take his or her life, meaning that person should be sent to jail for that. So it is so sad, it is so unfortunate, and I think we need to be very careful on how to handle situations like that. So the Ghanaian Parliament has deemed it necessary to say, okay, let not criminalize, or the bill, it was already a criminal law or a criminal act. The act was already criminalized in Ghana, that anybody who makes an attempt to take his or her life is a criminal act, and that person is liable to be prosecuted by the state. Now, unfortunately, the Ghanaian Parliament have also gone against that particular old generational or chronic law to say that if somebody thinks and feels that your life is at threat, you can report to social institutions where they can try to fortify or maybe protect you in one or two ways. So that was also a story of Ghana. Let's see, green energy profiting on the back of Congo miners. It is very unfortunate that Africa is still continuing to be a continent for exploitation. The other time I said it, while war is in the like of Congo, DRC Congo, that is the Democratic Republic of Congo, which capital city is Kinshasa. It is because of the Congo is a mineral resource or mineral resources rich state, and the West actually may not want war in Congo to stop, because with perpetual war in the Congo, United States or UN peacekeeping troops and other humanitarian bodies who may claim to be there to support the Congolese government will be having their own clandestine moves in order to exploit the country. Now we are seeing something like cobalt. Cobalt is actually used for electricity cars productions, but it is actually being mined into the Congo. And those who are mining the cobalt are only being paid $480 per month or 319 euro per month. That has actually contributed to the workers being so poor, and it's a physical job, irrespective of the type of job they are doing. Their life has never been improved. It is only in Africa that when sometime you are employed, you continue to live a dilapidating, if not deteriorating life. Your life will be a dilapidated one. Whereas in media, you can easily be stressed up with the employment, and there is no financial returns. Thinking about gold miners who are involved into physical job, they are being paid an infinitesimal amount or something too little to be accounted for, and those who they are mining for are exploiting the situation and taking those things to produce electric cars, and they are very expensive. So the human rights institutions are actually calling on the Congolese government and the companies who own the minings site into DRC Congo for these people to be paid money that we have that will change their life. But instead, the more they continue the mining, the more their lives collapses. And if the more their life collapses, or the lives of those people collapse, the longevity of their life is also going to be questioned and just be like a fruitless endeavor. Even our government, sometimes the contract that they sign with these mining companies, they are not good. That is why the human rights institutions are warning that the UK raid, that is a company over there, UK raid, and Kaji, which is based in southern DR Congo, near Kulewi. Okay, we are most of the world's cobalt is mined. So they are not already limiting it to just most of the world cobalt. All of those cobalt are being used to produce. Thinking about food prices are now soaring up all over the world. And if somebody is being paid an infinitesimal amount, how do you expect that person to feed his or his family at the end of the day? So it has been a critical situation, and we are expecting the Congolese government maybe to look into that and see how they can address that particular situation, or else the more they mine, the more their lives are going to be deteriorated, and the lesser they may see the benefit. Then this was not actually in the news headline, but let me come with it. Raila Odinga, that is the opposition leader of Kenya, actually in the stronghold of Kenya, suspend protest, I think for tomorrow, because he actually called a popular protest to be done both on Mondays and Thursday. Maybe the religious and AU leaders are having some amount of some amount of control over the situation by being able to persuade Raila Odinga not to go ahead, or to dissuade him from going ahead for the protest, because this was an issue that he was never willing to reckon with. And the government of William Ruto has also condemned the attack on the former president's farm or family property, and they have promised to investigate, to do a thorough investigation on the incident, and to ensure that those who are responsible are going to be prosecuted. However, he also stressed out that all those who think and feel that they can come out and demonstrate, destroy life and property, especially attack state institutions, and with the notion that they have their right, even human rights have limitation. So they are saying that they are not going to go with impunity, and all those who are involved into the act, they are going to be brought to justice. And the police have resulted in arresting hundreds of people. They are waiting trials, and the police are also on the high alert, because it was Raila Odinga who said Thursdays and Mondays demonstrations are going to be in Kenya and protests have been there. And is he the same Raila Odinga is claiming that tomorrow there will be no protest? But yet the police are alerted, because they wouldn't want to be caught up in the situation where they would have done proactive moves. So we are afraid of serious confrontation, and we all know what happens into Kenya. Kenyan politics is full of tribalism. We may see the Kikuyu attacking other people. So we are waiting to see what may happen over there. Then let's see. Zambia warns against anti-gay protest for the visit of Kamala Harris, the Vice President of the United States. Kamala Harris came into Ghana. She's due to visit Zambia today, and she will definitely be leaving for Tanzania. Of course, in Tanzania, she will be able to see Samia Suluhu Hassan, the first female president for that black East African country. So in Ghana, after her visitation, the parliament condemned Kamala Harris' attempt to preach human rights laws, especially in the name of gays, Africa, or homosexuals. Africa has a culture, a unique tradition. The responsibility of Africans should not be tampered with, and it is not the responsibility, the mandate of any person from above to come and dictate to Africa what they should do. But it's now unfortunate that we have seen the US and other countries are now being involved into telling Africa what they should do and what they shouldn't do, just because they give us, maybe our countries, if there is no free donor in Africa. Normally tell people there is no free gift. Each time they come in, they promise and give gifts or donations. Those donations have some amount of maximum effect on how we interact and what type of law we should tolerate. The society in Africa cannot take what the solutions into the United States. It comes and solve a typical African problem. We have different philosophy. We live in different society. Our culture, our behavioral pattern is quite different. But the West want to pattern us on their own standard, and that have made Africa to actually lost its responsibility, its understandability, and its youth are definitely falling apart because the philosophies, the school of thought that we are meeting today are so different, and they tend to support radical government that listen to their call. So I think the Ghanaians through that land, and Zambians have actually been warned. And it is also expected that while she visits Lusaka, she's definitely coming to discuss issue, or she will definitely discuss issue like that. And in that discussion, you will understand she will start to preach for gay or homosexual right, which is totally un-African, which is unacceptable. And we want to forget about our biological right in the name of personal or human right. And human right does not mean that violating our cultures and our tradition. It is unfortunate. It is so crazy and it is so unexpected, but their behavioral pattern of the past decade since Obama regime have been very predictable, because he came and legalized homosexuals' right, and they are now trying to impose the right of homosexuals on the continent. And if you listen very keenly and watch about what is happening today on the continent, it is only few leaders who have the guts to preach against the right of homosexuality, like of Yoweri Museveni. He has been very outspoken into this. His parliament has even passed law, and yesterday the parents were actually begging not for them to allow, or not for him to pen down the law or to assent to the law. I think what they are actually afraid of is like the law implicates anybody who knows or who sees or who is aware of the existence of a homosexual, and if you fail to report that person to the authority, you also becomes a criminal, and you will definitely be prosecuted. So those who do not want to become criminal, who do not want to or be charged with any criminal offense because of their knowledge about gays, they are now asking Mr. President not to sign that particular bill into law. So let's see, grave robbers dig up concrete to find Abinu's body. That is in Mozambique. That is the different type of cultural practice. In places like Sierra Leone, Liberia, Guinea, Ivory Coast, and whatsoever thing, I'm not saying people, maybe I have not seen or witnessed such thing, but maybe it has been widely rumored that we have cannibals and what people who deal in rituals, in mortars, they kill human beings for ritual powers. But in Zimbabwe, in Tanzania, in places like Kenya, Burundi, and Mozambique, especially in East and Southern Africa, it is a well-known culture for them to actually attack albinos, kill them, and sell them. Unfortunately, like in places like Tanzania and Burundi, including Mozambique, it is very difficult to fight against this particular act. Reason being, those people that they trust really are the main violators of the albinos' right, because they think and feel that using the part of your albino to seek ritual power, that will fortify maybe your money or your political power, have actually influenced them, and they are even negating on the right of albinos to be protected. So it is these politicians who send young men unemployed, poor, to look for albinos, maybe kill them and produce. And in Tanzania, some of them have been sent to jail. Now, the tactics they have resorted to it, like if somebody is dead or somebody dies who is an albino, and that person is taken to the grave, they will try to break that particular concrete, then take out the albino and use his body part for their rituals. It's a silly attitude. I think Africans should condemn that act. In Tanzania, they even have albino communities where people only identify albinos have the opportunity to live. Because when they live among people who are non-albinos, they can easily be used as for rituals. They can easily be in attack. And in Tanzania, they also have albinos MP. They have one albino MP. I don't know why currently now if the parliament still have that. So it's like people who are being identified as albinos, the lives are actually at risk because of the mystical powers that surround around them, and that mystical power is actually leading to their death. Witchmen or witch doctors or ritualists or traditional doctors, witches and wizards are now using albinos' body part to ensure that they get more power according to them, and also fortify those who are in power. And politicians who should be protecting these albinos are the very people that are sending unemployed youth, poor and abandoned, to hunt down these people. So it's a shame, and we need to be very, very careful, and our understandability about this thing need to actually be questioned. So let's see. Now we come to Lukashenko. Alexander Lukashenko is the president of Belarus, and Belarus is actually in Europe. Belarus shares border with both Ukraine and Russia, where we are having current crises that have resulted to the entire crisis that we are currently faced in the world, especially in areas where war is not taking place. But the effect of global crisis in time of food is now on its peak, because there is skyrocketing in the prices of fuel, and that has resulted to it having a maximum effect on what happens on the continent. So Lukashenko is now hosting the Zimbabwean foreign minister, and that particular foreign minister have hosted or have attended several meetings in Belarus, and they have promised to ensure that they help the Zimbabwean government with agricultural seed, and also to help them to have enough grain so that Zimbabwe cannot be faced with tumultuous problems. We have all known and seen since the days of Robert Gabriel Mugabe, Zimbabwe have been facing huge and unstoppable sanctions from the like of the United States, from the like of Britain, and also France and other countries. It is only the like of Russia who have been coming towards. That is why I said Russia war in Ukraine continue to divide the sentiment into Africa. The like of Zimbabwe may not condemn Russia because in one or two ways they are benefiting directly from Russia, while US, Britain, France are being seen as their immediate foes or enemies or adversaries. In short, here, it is them who are almost always sanctioning those countries, and Russia has only presented himself. So the foreign minister of Zimbabwe is in Minsk, that is the capital city of Belarus, to ensure that he has a fruitful meeting with the country in terms of energy, food, and the promise that around maybe $100 million will be invested into the country to see how they can boost the country agriculture and help it. And Zimbabwe is facing 100% inflation rate. On numerous occasions, it has failed to pay teachers, nurses, and the other time we learned that it is actually increasing the salary of all civil servants to 100%. But in that case, civil servants have been paid into Zimbabwe less than $100. I'm thinking about how inflated their money is. And for some time ago, if you want to go and purchase like $50 or $50 United States dollar goods, if you change it to the Zimbabwean dollars, you can easily take that money into a wheelbarrow and start to pass with it. So it's shameful, it's disgraceful, and Africa need to actually wake up from this slumber and negotiate with people who are capable of helping them. We are not supporting Russia against Ukraine. Neither is anybody condemning them, but Africa also need to be very careful because the particular coming of the West on the continent is taking the toll of the struggle for and the partition of Africa in 1900. A series of excuses being given, some African countries may end up to tie contract with these guys in which they may not understand the clauses, and those clauses will end up to affect the generations that are yet to come into power. So our leaders need to be very careful, they need to be very cautious, and they should understand what type of contract to sign with the Westerners. Because when they are dining with the enemy, always remember to have the longest fork, so that when he or she want to do anything mischievous, you will be able to spot it. So Africa need to think twice. We need African leaders with absolute wisdom to do proper negotiation on the invaders. Because I call them like invaders because they are coming there with keen interest, special interest, and they want to exploit the continent. Africa today has a lot of natural resources, and Africa also is blessed with youthful population. We should be very careful that our population should not be managed in the name of global crisis. The crisis will definitely go. Leaders who are willing to sacrifice their country in the name of this short-term crisis may end up to regret it. So we should be very careful on how. Then finally, Botswana denies plot to kill ex-leader Amara. Amara was the leader of Botswana, but he has actually been accused of corruption and even having arms that in his home, which is termed as illegal, and he ran away to South Africa. But then Botswana is actually coming to face another election this year, and Amara really want to come back to Botswana in order for him to contest for the election. But according to his lawyers and other people, it has been alleged that the Botswana government intends to kill him on his return. There will be other poison whatsoever thing. Last month, it has been alleged that Amara's life in South Africa is in danger because the Botswana government has hired secret assassins, professional secret assassins, to assassinate him in South Africa. But the allegation was being refuted by the Botswana government. Now, this latest accusation is coming when he has already slated the time to get back into Botswana. But it has also been refuted by the same relation that they are definitely not going to kill anyone, and they do not have the intention to kill any foreign leader. But the important thing is that Amara has a case to answer when he comes into Botswana, and we are yet to see how those events like that unfold. So far so good. He is safe and sound into South Africa, but he's been worried over what may happen should he go back into Botswana, and he still harboring his political ambition. So it's a kind of critical situation that African Union or others should really take time to see how they can handle those things, and we're expecting the Southern African Union to investigate this case and to ensure that if Amara is about to leave for Botswana, he should be into safer hands. Thank you for listening. It's been me, Edward Amara, with Focus on Liberia, Roundtable Africa, and the major headlines we are: green energy profiting on the back of Congolese. Green energy companies are profiting on the back of Congolese. Then Ghana decriminalizes attempted suicide. Before this time, it was a criminal offense, but the Ghanaians now have not deemed it as a mental health problem and that need to be addressed instead of prosecuting those who may make an attempt to take their life. Then Zimbabwe warns against anti-gay protests. Zambia warned against anti-gay protests. The president or the vice president of the United States of America, Kamala Harris, who shares some African descent, is definitely in Zambia, but because of her previous visit to Ghana in which she preached for gay rights, now she's actually in Zimbabwe, in Zambia, Lusaka, Zambia. She also have the intention to do what she did there, but people who are traditional, people who are African-minded, people who are fanatic when it comes to African mentality have the intention to protest against her pending intention to preach for gay, and gays and lesbians or homosexuals do not have a place on the continent. That is what some people think and feel. Then let's see. Then grave robbers in Mozambique. We are actually arrested. In Mozambique, albinos are not given the opportunity to live as free men, unlike other African states. They think and feel that bodies or albinism is a cause, and most of them can actually be used for ritual purposes. And politicians are the main factors why albinos' life are in threat. In places like Tanzania, they used to have an albino MP, and in Tanzania, you must live in a community as an albino to be protected from the people who may think or feel that you are a bait for them to have money. Then Lukashenko meets Zimbabwe foreign minister. Lukashenko is the president of Belarus. He actually met with Zimbabwe foreign minister on how to discuss the economic and political crisis of Zimbabwe and how they can solve it. Then finally, Botswana ex-president Amara alleges that the government of Botswana plans to poison him on his return, but the government of Botswana have repeated the claim and said the ex-president has a case to answer, but they do not plan to poison him because that has not been the plan of the government. Thank you for listening. Good night. Join me tomorrow if you can. Edward Amara is the name. Focus on Liberia, West African correspondent.